My name is Michelle Dewberry. I've been asked to speak very briefly about my experience of the election in June this year. I will start by telling you quickly my background in relation to politics and my interest in politics. It's very quickly summed up as being zero. Right up until the age of 30, I had no interest whatsoever in politics. I didn't vote in a general election, not at all. I didn't vote because firstly I didn't care really, I wasn't engaged. Secondly, there was no point. I lived in a very Labour safe seat. So we were just Labour through and through, born and bred Labour. We were very working class, and Labour just represented us. We didn't really need to get up and do anything about it because, as I've already said, we were a very strong Labour stronghold, and it was just taken for granted. What then happened in the 2010 election for me personally is I was starting to become aware of politics and current affairs. I was quite frustrated with things as they stood, so I decided to vote for the first time in my life, and I voted for the Conservatives. And it made me feel quite uncomfortable actually voting for the Conservatives, and this isn't intended to offend anybody. I just like to be honest in my talks. So I felt quite uncomfortable voting for Conservatives because whilst I felt they represented me as the successful entrepreneur in London that had aspirations, I didn't feel that they fully represented my family who were back in Hull, who were working as a labourer in a factory, as an NHS worker, whatever it was. So I felt very contradicted, but I went with Tory nonetheless because I really just wanted some change. Fast forward to this election, and I found myself in a situation where in my constituency, which is Hull West and Hessel, we had an MP that I respected very well, which is Alan Johnson, the Labour MP. I respected him, I thought he was fantastic at his job, and then he handed his resignation in. I sat and for a moment thought, well, who's going to replace him? Who's going to look after my family in that area? Didn't really think much about it, went to sleep, went to the pub, did whatever. And then when I woke up the next day, I thought, actually, I really truly thought about it, and I felt that there was nobody that was truly the right person / party to represent my family in that area. I felt very uncomfortable with Jeremy Corbyn's vision for the Labour Party. I stood by my thought process that I didn't think that the Tory party represented those people, my family, in the right way. So I decided to do something about it, and I can see Steve cringing now, going, "Oh, Michelle, you're not supposed to be saying this about the Tory party, please." So I decided to stand as an independent candidate. I made that decision with 5 weeks to go to the general election. I had no experience whatsoever of running for Parliament. I didn't know what you did. I had no team. I had no money. I had no manifesto. But I just thought, well, you can't let those things stop you. And I just cracked on with it. I found a backer. My backer was Free Parliament, which is somebody who wants to see independent candidates at least running in each constituency. They were supposed to be launching in 2020 when the next election was supposed to be. They got caught unawares in 2017, but they supported me nonetheless. I found myself a group of volunteers, and I didn't have time / the need to do a manifesto, but I defined my principles, and what my messaging was to the people of Hull is, look, I'm not a party. I don't have these big, glossy magazines and manifestos, but what I do have is a set of principles and things that I feel very strongly about. I very strongly felt that I was the right person to support that city, and I knew it was my home, and it was my family, it was my friends, and I absolutely wanted the best for that place. So what then followed was, all in all, I had about a 4-week campaign window, and it was the steepest learning curve I've ever experienced. First of all, I couldn't get my head around how manual an election process is and paper-based. So I'm quite technology, I focus on technology, and I found myself in a situation where everything was paper-based. I was told that I'd got to post leaflets through people's doors and knock on people's doors, and the thought of which mortified me is if anyone knocks on my door, I'm going to tell them where to go. I'm not going to stand and have a conversation with them. So the thought that I had to do this all of a sudden, I didn't want to do it, so I delayed doing it for weeks. It was only in the last week and a half that I considered that actually I probably should be knocking on doors. And it was absolutely the right thing for me to have done. It was a mistake that I made to have dismissed that as a strategy. You guys, everyone knows what they're doing. doing, I probably should have listened to other people instead of following my own rules on that. So we was door knocking, we was doing leaflets, we was doing street stalls. It was all fairly embarrassing because the Tories and Labour, you know, they had their big slick, fantastic tents and things like that. I had a gazebo from Argos in the street. They kept blowing away every time the wind came. On election day, the posters, you know, all the great parties had fantastic posters on the lampposts. We'd made ours from cardboard that we got from Sainsbury's and some posters that we'd made. So it was all quite, it was all, let's just say it was a grassroots movement was my campaign. That's what I'm going to describe it as. Now, I'm very, very proud of what we achieved. I got 5.5% of the votes, which was just shy of 2,000 votes, which if you've ever followed the path of an independent candidate, that's very, very unusual, and it was a fantastic result. So I was very, very proud. We beat 3 national parties, and I stand to tell the tale today. Now, very briefly, I'll tell you some of the things that I experienced that I thought was terrible. For me personally, the amount of abuse that I received during my campaign was next level. I've never experienced anything like it, and I do political commentary, so I work on Sky News every week. I've done Question Time multiple times. I get a lot of stick online, and I'm cool with that because people have different opinions. What I wasn't expecting and what I wasn't prepared for in any way was the sheer amount of relentless daily, hourly abuse that I received. Now, bearing in mind, I wasn't representing, you know, anyone. I was representing myself as an independent for the city. But I got abuse online, I got physical, verbal abuse, the police were involved in my campaign twice, and it was carnage. It was really unsettling, shall we say, and it would be enough, that the abuse that I received would be enough in itself to make me question whether or not I would stand for a second attempt in the next election. I don't know the answer to that yet. So that was the first negative thing that I had. The positive experience that I had is that people were really interested to see something different. They were interested to see somebody doing something different that looked like them, that sounded like them, and it really reinforced to me the value of actually being from the constituency that you're aiming to represent. There's such a big deal that people were making about you're a local girl, it's a local connection, and people really seem to like that. What I found as well is I struggled in the election I wanted to debate Labour. I saw Labour as my key competitor in that seat because it was a stronghold, and it had always been since 1997 when it was established. They point blank refused to do hustings with me. They would not attend. They would do things like, there was one husting and they sent this guy, this Labour supporter from Leeds, and he literally just did not stop. He was heckling me like non-stop throughout the entire thing, and it actually turned very, very nasty, did this hustings. And it was unpleasant because my perspective is we all have different opinions, we have different, you know, Brexit, politic views, whatever, who cares? And you should be able to respectfully disagree, you should be able to respectfully debate. And what I worry about in the political climate at the moment is that respect is losing. People are violently and aggressively disagreeing, and it will shut down the debate because I'm a very strong individual, I'm a very strong person, I'm used to criticism, I can deal with criticism. But if even someone like me, would contemplate not re-standing again because of that abuse, that is, you know, it's showing me how bad it's getting. I'm really conscious of time, and I'm really conscious of keeping you all. What else would I like to share with you? Oh yeah, the results. So I should probably share with you the results, and if anyone's got any questions then you can ask me in a sec. But so the results on what we had, it was Labour won, obviously, no surprise there. They got 53% of the votes, Tories 29.8, Lib Dem 6.4, and I got 5.5. And the interesting one was UKIP. So UKIP was very strong. It came second in the seat that I stood in 2015, and they came behind me this time. So they were very disappointed in their results. So yeah, so my I'm just trying to think to sum it all up because I'm getting some nods to hurry up. So that's it really. I felt very strongly that we can talk, everyone can talk about things, but actually the thing that's going to make the difference is taking that action. So I get paid to talk about politics for a living, it's fantastic, but actually I've learned more about politics than, you know, when I've rolled my sleeves up and actually got involved and done it. It's been a fantastic experience, and should anyone, even though I've just told you about all the abuse I've received, should anyone be sitting there going, yeah, that sounds like a great thing to do, my advice would be to do it. I think that we've got so much that we could be doing. Politicians have so many opportunities to influence and to create change. I feel very concerned about people that don't involve themselves in an election and that are disengaged, as I was for many years. I think there's great opportunities to engage people that at the moment do not. And yeah, thank you. Go and get your lunch. Thanks.